This is a Hot Pie Media original.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp, that's H-E-L-P, is professional therapy done securely online. I've gotten therapy. There's no shame in that ever. So if you feel like you need to take next steps, then stick around for a discount code at the end. BetterHelp will assess your needs, match you with your own licensed professional therapist, and since they are committed to facilitating solid therapeutic matches, they make it easy and free to change therapist if needed. You can start communicating in under 48 hours, schedule weekly video or phone sessions, and log into your account anytime and send a message to your therapist. It's available worldwide and more affordable than traditional therapy. And guess what else? Financial aid is available too. I think that's a huge statement about BetterHelp because, man, therapy is not easy. I know the year that I was going through my divorce, we wanted to go through divorce care counseling the whole time. And man, we spent like $60,000, money that honestly we didn't have, but we were trying to help each other, help ourselves, and having someone that will come in and support and make it affordable for all. You know, I think that's very important, speaks highly of BetterHelp. BetterHelp really wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit their website at BetterHelp. That's HELP.com. Read some reviews and take the next step to take charge of your mental health because you are an overcomer. Special offer for Overcome with Justin Wren listeners. Get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/overcome. Again, that's BetterHelp.com/overcome. Welcome back to Overcome with Justin Wren. I'm really grateful for this episode. Amy, how badass is Rafael?
Oh, gosh. Rafael's such a master. He's such a badass.
Yeah.
I really love him.
So do I. He's one of the most special people in this world to me. He's been a training partner of mine. Whenever he made his Bellator MMA debut, he fought right before I did. And then I came in the ring right after. He knocked someone out in about 14 seconds. And then he just stood by the cage. I walked out, actually had to go get checked by the doctors, and he ran right back out to be in my corner. And it was just such a cool experience for that to be the start of his career, fighting right before me. And then his last fight, winning the world championship in Bellator MMA, being the undefeated MMA world champion, and one of the most accomplished men to ever do the sport of jiu-jitsu. I think our listeners are going to love this show today. What was one of the things that stuck out to you?
I think that I just appreciate who Rafael is, like in his soul, like who he is. It emanates from him. And he has a really clear way of living and clear way of thinking. And I think that I like that because my mind feels like it's going in different directions a lot. And it sets a really cool example for me to just be like, oh, he makes things so clear. And I just love that. I mean, aside from all his accomplishments and the incredible, business he has built and his champness, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. He's a champion in life, not just a champion in the cage, but outside of the cage. The way that he carries himself, conducts himself, the way that he's a student of life, student on the mats, but the way that he also teaches. I think that's something that's pretty incredible about him. When you say that about clarity, I think a lot of times, people are going to hear his humble heart. They're going to see the almost human chess match that he makes jiu-jitsu and MMA. And I really think that they're going to see how clear he is on how not only he is about his own goals, but with the way that he clearly communicates it, just like what you're saying.
Exactly.
He does that on the mats, though. And oftentimes, some of the best athletes or some of the best fighters don't become some of the best coaches. And yet he became one of the best athletes by first being one of the best athletes from jiu-jitsu. And then he turned around and started teaching. One of the best ways he became one of the best ever in jiu-jitsu was that he was constantly coaching and teaching guys so that he would clearly communicate how he does it and then watch them, show them how they can do it a little better. And then he's able to articulate that in such an amazing way on this show.
How do you think that rubbed off on you?
Well, I think being around him inspires you to do a lot of the same things that he's doing, being able to sit there, watch, listen, learn, be able to train with him and feel the pressure. I'll say this about Rafael. I have trained with so many world champions in MMA and a bunch of world champions getting ready for the world championship heavyweight fight. Being underneath them is nowhere near. And oftentimes in MMA, to set this up, you put yourself in something called worst case scenario, which means you let a guy get full mount on you, which is like them straddling your chest, and then they can rain down punches or choke on you or elbows, all sorts of things. They can twist your arm up.
I've had you hold me down. I know what you're talking about. It scares me playfully, but yes, of course, let's clarify playfully. But I mean, like, wow. Yeah.
So we'll put ourselves in those situations and learn how to get out, becoming comfortable being uncomfortable. Because if you get there in a fight, you can't crumble. You can't cave. You have to rise above and overcome. So Rafael is the scariest human in full mount that there's ever been. For me, he's the only guy I've ever been claustrophobic underneath. And he weighs 80 pounds less than some of these guys that I'm training with.
He's tall though. He's 6'4".
He's tall. He knows how to use his weight.
That's incredible.
Every ounce of it you feel, and it's suffocating. And then to learn how to be comfortable underneath him, which I'm never fully comfortable underneath him at all, that, anybody can now get mount on me and I'm just like, this is cake. This is a cakewalk, because he's made me so uncomfortable and learned to be comfortable there that I know I can, for me, I feel comfortable or confident that if I can handle him, I can handle anyone.
And isn't that a metaphor for life, Justin?
Yeah.
Get as uncomfortable as you can, and then you can handle it all.
Yeah. And I think what our listeners are really going to love is how clear he is on his 4 words. I won't spoil those. Listen all the way to the end, because we wrap up in an incredible way. I'm really, really glad you're here, that I'm able to elevate the life mission and purpose of one of my best friends, and definitely one of the greatest coaches I've ever had. So welcome to Overcome with Justin Wren. Buckle up, Buttercups, because this is going to be a great episode. You're going to get so much out of it.
And yes, and let's just say also you can find him at Lovato BJJ, Lovato Jr. BJJ on Instagram.
And you can look him up in Oklahoma City if you're ever there and get on the mats with him. He comes down to Austin frequently too. And the other day, whenever we were recording this podcast, he came in right after training with George St. Pierre, Gordon Ryan, up there at Roca with Tim Kennedy and Shanji Hibero. You might not know these names, but they're UFC Hall of Famers, the best grapplers ever in the world. Among them, they literally probably had 20 plus world championships among like 3 or 4 guys, at least 20, probably far more than that, closer to 30, which is insane among those small group of men. So, and you can follow him at Timeless Jiu-Jitsu. He's also starting that, because as people age, they think they have to get out of combat sports, and that is not true, especially with the art of jiu-jitsu. You learn how to flow with it.
Yeah. And it's all on his website, lovatojr.com, Lovato.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Demi, as he says.
Yeah. And we would love, like Demi. And we would love for you to go and leave a review on this podcast. Please rate, review, subscribe, follow on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, or anywhere that you get your podcast. That would really help the show. We'd be so grateful for it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now let's get to the show. Well, let's get into this. You excited?
I'm ready.
Man, I'm really excited you're here. Tell me about what just happened. I mean, you just got here. We bumped the podcast back just a little bit because you had an incredible opportunity to train with one of the best martial artists, maybe of all times.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, which I also consider you to be one of the best martial artists of all times as well.
Yeah, man. Everywhere I go, I want to seek out knowledge and inspiration. And sure enough, I saw George St. Pierre, UFC Hall of Fame legend, world champion.
Legend.
Yeah, by every sense of the word. He posted a picture a couple of days ago, like on Tuesday, that he was here training and with John Danaher, Gordon, and the crew there. And I commented on it and I was like, hey man, I'm on my way. Like, I would love to get on the mats with you. It would be amazing. And we started a little message, and then Gordon got in on that too and responded and was just like, yeah, come on over. And so I got in Tuesday night. Yesterday, I wanted to reserve my first day for Shanji. And we broke in his new academy and got our first training in there together. But then today I was like, all right, I gotta go over there. I gotta take advantage of this. It's like bucket list type thing, to just talk to him, just absorb some of that amazing energy and inspiration. And sure enough, we were partners in the class. And so we got to talk a lot and work together, and had a great class, great time with him. We rolled a little bit, and just such an awesome guy. And so definitely, like, I'm on a little bit of a high right now. I can't believe that just happened. And
you deserve that.
Yeah. Thank you. And yeah, like I said, a dream bucket list type thing to share the mats with him. Someone that's inspired me so much throughout the years, a true martial artist in every sense of the way. Like, now he's not fighting anymore. His career, everything is, I mean, you can't do more than what he's done, really, but he's still learning. He's still training. He still keeps himself in great shape, puts himself on the mats or in the gym academy, with the best of the new generation, and just keeps going. Yeah. And for me, that's just like, that's the way I want to live. And so,
well, I think that's the way you do live, to be honest. I mean, the thing I see about both of you are that you're true martial artists. And for, honestly, the other guys, you just shared their names, Gordon, Shanji. These are true martial artists that some of our listeners might not know, but Shanji's got probably over 10 world championships. And Gordon Ryan's one of the best pound for pound jiu-jitsu masters in the world right now. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, what does that mean to you, being a lifelong student or a true martial artist?
Well, it's just that, being a lifelong student. And, that's kind of the basis of it. You start martial arts, and you're a student first and foremost. You're just learning. And inside of that is just being able to be humble. Your ego gets checked. Yeah. Of course, you might be a very open-minded student, but there are other people that already have a sense of I'm strong, I'm fit, or I wrestled, I did this, I did that, or the other. And then you get on the mats and you realize, okay, this is a whole nother thing. And it's not going to just be a week or a month or 6 months or a year. It's going to be years, years and years and years to get to a competent level. And then, and so, kind of swallowing that, and then just keep showing up. Right. And, even after, the goal is always to become a black belt, to be your black belt self, right? What does that look like, And that's the fun part, the journey of creating your game, your own little expression, your own personality on the mats, and just learning and developing that. And then you get to black belt and you realize that you can still be much better, and it doesn't end. And you keep going and you keep refining. And then by that time, for me, the next level is to be a teacher, and to give back and share what you've learned, share your journey, share your experiences. And that will help you become even better. Like, you can only hit a certain level of mastery, just thinking about yourself. Once you start giving back and teaching and helping others, the way you communicate, the way that you lift everyone around you, and then the way that circles and comes back to you, you hit a new level. And that's kind of part two. And then the part three that's kind of in there as well, as much as you like it to be. But for me, it's been a very heavy part of my journey and my career is just challenging yourself, competition. You can kind of stay in your own little comfort zone. Of course, in the beginning, it's not comfortable to be in a new school, and being a white belt and learning and coming up. But after so many years, you get comfortable there, and you're training with people that you're very used to and accustomed to. And so challenging yourself outside of that and competing, especially on like an international or world-class stage, trying to put your game up against someone else's, your masterpiece up against someone else's masterpiece. That's where you really learn you know, more than just technique, but also who you are, how you operate under pressure, how to dig deep, and you know, you're going to lose, and overcoming those temporary failures, and once again, keep showing up, keep learning, and keep developing. That makes you better, and then it gives you more to teach, more to offer, makes you a better student, and that's life. You just keep doing all of that as much as you can. And the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu is there's age categories. So you can compete in your 60s, even 70s. There's an age class for you. And more these days, you see matches with, you know, grandparents.
Yeah.
Grandparents getting out there and scrapping a little bit, you know, total gray hair. And it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. How old is your dad now?
My dad is 62 this year. He's 63, 64.
Yeah. And you,
gosh, how old am I? Okay. Yeah, no, he turned 64 this year.
64.
Because I turned 39 and he's 25.
Still on the mats.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you'll ever get him off the mats, right? I mean, he loves it.
Yeah, that's the point. He was just in my class on Monday night, actually. Wow. And we rolled, and you know, we just keep doing what we love. And then that's a beautiful thing. It keeps you young.
Yeah.
You know, like you see someone like St. Pierre, Shanji, my other friends, Cameron, they're aging so well.
Mm.
You know, that you look good, you stay young, you're around the next generation forever.
Yeah.
And so there's these young, hungry guys coming up, trying to put their name in the sport, make their mark in the history. And that keeps you young and keeps you inspired, keeps you sharp. And you just get to vibe off that energy, and you never stop moving. We're always moving. I think that's the key. Like the saying, once you, like, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
Like that's real.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to use it. You got to use this body every day.
That's true.
Body, mind, spirit.
And I think it's awesome to think about how, they're keeping their body young, but because they're constantly learning, I think that's what I love about martial arts, is that you could never know it all.
Right.
Not when you put all of it together. Even in jiu-jitsu, I don't think you could always learn it all. And it's constantly evolving. I remember when I came from wrestling to jiu-jitsu, I was like, wow, there's so much more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wrestling is an incredible art in its own, and it's so hard to learn. And so, I don't know, that grinding nose to nose, that hard nose style. But when I came to jiu-jitsu, I was like, wow, the guys that just want to finesse or be all technical, like they can have their own game with that. We're guys that can just be strength, or guys that are combining it all. And you're a guy that just teaches so much about the fundamentals. And I mean, you have so much more than that, for sure. Without a doubt, you're one of the best in the world to ever do it. But I think that you always remind people and point out that before you get fancy and want to learn this stuff, that is a high risk move with not a lot of reward. If you lose that, you're like, what's going to win every time, and what's going to be your bread and butter? And that's what I loved coming to Lovato Jiu-Jitsu, which I want to get in the story of how your father founded that, because I think it's so beautiful, you and him, and the legacy that it is. But I think that it was the most excited I was to join a martial arts academy, because it wasn't just a fight gym. It wasn't just a fight school. Yeah. It was a true martial arts academy and school where you learn to be a martial artist first. And then to be pointed back to the fundamentals and to be around you right whenever you had your first Bellator MMA fight. You made your debut on my last fight there. And then all of a sudden it was like you just skyrocketed, still undefeated and the world champion. And that was such a beautiful thing to see, witness, play a small part in, and then just be able to be around that energy and learn and grow and be like, wow, look at this guy. Look at the team he's got. To see your walkout music being for the world championship, your father playing the organ, right?
Yeah.
And you coming out to that was a surprise for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I told him like minutes before we were walking out, like when the fight, before my fight was happening, I was like, hey, Dad, just want to let you know real quick, when we walk out there, you're going to hear yourself playing the organ. And I just wanted to tell him then, so it didn't hit him and he didn't get too emotional while we were walking to the cage. So I told him backstage, and we hugged it out for a second, and that was it. It was like, okay, we're ready to go to war.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that was like what it was 2000 into 2016 into 17 when you came in and we started training together, and it's just crazy how much has happened, how much life has happened.
Yeah.
In a short period of time, and definitely had some just cherished memories, cherished moments inside of that time. But man, I don't know. You said so much, and my mind's just going all over.
No, well, I would love to go to. Well, how did you? I mean, you literally are one of the best martial artists walking the earth today, and one of the most accomplished, one of the most accomplished Americans to ever do it. And you and your family, your father's legacy, is that of the first two father-son American Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts, right?
Yes, we were the first ones.
First ones.
Mm-hmm.
And this is before it was mainstream.
Yeah.
Before Jiu-Jitsu was, before UFC was. I mean, what UFC came to in 1993, right? Mm-hmm. They fought in Denver, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys, when did y'all get your start in Jiu-Jitsu? And I mean, you and your father, senior, Rafael Lovato Senior. How did he find the sport? And then how did y'all start your own academy in Oklahoma City? Of all places to start, it wasn't on the West Coast. It was in Oklahoma City. I mean, what was that journey like? How did your dad get into it?
Well, my father is a lifetime martial artist. He grew up boxing in the South Side of Chicago. His mom was a single mother, and so he was getting into trouble as a young boy and hanging out with the wrong crowd. And so she got him into the boys club and got him boxing to harness his aggression. And that was his first experience with martial arts was boxing in Chicago. And that's when he was idolizing Muhammad Ali. And later on, his next idol became Bruce Lee. And so then he went into a traditional martial arts journey and went that route, and had always had martial arts close to him in his life. And when I was born, we were living in Ohio, and he was a professional organist there. So talk about, I mean, I don't think there's another black belt who plays the organ professionally, like, And
I've been to one of his performances, and he is really, really good. I think I was at, what was that? Not Central Oklahoma, but Oklahoma City. Yeah, UCO.
Or OCU, one of those.
Yeah, one of those. It was there. And it was in the city, not in Edmond. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's the Oklahoma City University. Yeah, OCU. Mm-hmm. And it was beautiful seeing that. And all of a sudden I just remember, well, your mom and dad are two of my favorite people. Your mom, I think, is the only one that gives hugs better than you.
Yeah, I think her hug might even be stronger than yours.
I agree with that, because it shocked me with how strong her hug was. And she's amazing. She's such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
And they have supported you in such incredible ways. But I remember sitting there in the audience being like, wow, this guy isn't just a master of martial arts. I mean, he is the real deal. Yeah, in arts, all of them. He's a master of arts.
Yeah, he's a very interesting kind of Renaissance man. My father, unfortunately, he never got to know his father. His father passed when he was a baby, and his father and his mother were very young when they had him, and so his mom was still basically a teenager when my father was a baby, and so. He grew up fast, and everything that he did was basically on his own. He dropped out of high school, but went on to get a GED and become very well read. He's a historian.
Yeah.
You can talk to him about virtually anything in history from any part of the world, and he can chop it up with you and give you the dates and the people and
I've
everything.
talked to him about Stoic philosophy before.
Yeah,
it was really interesting.
Yeah. And then he fell in love with music and taught himself music, learned how to play the organ, which is basically in my opinion, the most complicated instrument there is.
Yeah.
The multiple levels of keys for your hands and your feet
Right.
at the same time. It's pretty crazy. And he'll go back and forth with what he says is his greatest love versus music and martial arts. But of course, martial arts really did that thing for him that he needed, being that he didn't have a father.
Right.
It gave him an outlet and it gave him people to look up to.
Give him mentors.
Yeah.
Just like he's done so well for so many people.
Yes.
I mean, in the academy, I know so many people look up to your dad.
Yes.
And
he really
can
took
seem
that
like
to
a
heart.
Father figure.
Yeah. When I grew up inside the academy, he was always bringing people into our home and taking care of people, giving them love and guidance.
But for your dad, starting a martial arts academy in Oklahoma City for a sport that's not very well known at the time. Do you remember when it was founded?
So let me circle back.
Yeah.
So we're in Ohio and he's playing the organ professionally, but he's training at a JKD school.
Okay.
So, following Bruce Lee, went into the traditional martial arts, and then he found Jeet Kune Do instructors. And being that was Bruce Lee's art, obviously he gravitated towards that. And he ended up spending a lot of time with some of Bruce Lee's greatest students, particularly Richard Bustillo and Danny Inosanto, two of the greatest martial artists I've ever lived as well. Just masters of multiple arts. And in Ohio, he was an assistant instructor at that JKD school. And that was my first little bit of growing up in the academy. I remember getting out of school, my dad picking me up and going to that academy and watching him teach or train. And I would be on the side playing with my G.I. Joes or whatever and just waiting for dad to finish training. And then I started, the very first martial arts I did structurally, besides for just training at home with my dad. I mean, he had me hitting mitts and doing stuff ever since I could barely walk, but the first structure training I did was Kempo inside that JKD school.
Right.
And it was just
Kempo's karate.
Yeah. It was just a good thing for kids to do. And I did that and tested for belts and stuff. But then when I turned 8, we moved to Oklahoma. And my dad also put himself through physical therapy school and was a physical therapist. And when we arrived in Oklahoma, he got a job as a physical therapist at a hospital. But being that he could never stay far from martial arts, he wanted to basically keep practicing. So he started a class in that hospital. And it went from 2 to 3 students on up to 30 students really quickly. And then there was a little bit of a transition period where we had a very small house. It was like a duplex. And he turned that garage into a little gym, a little school. People used to come over and work out with us there. And then in order to open his own school, we got rid of that house and we actually moved in with my mom's parents who lived in Oklahoma. That's why we're there. She's from Oklahoma. And he put everything he had into opening up martial arts school. And my mom and I would actually stay at my grandparents', and my dad would sleep at the school. He was just all in and
dedicated, committed,
and a little, he's a proud Latino man. He didn't want to stay with the in-laws, and so he would sleep there. And there were days where even my mom and I would stay there too. He had a couch bed in his office, and that was basically the first year of owning a martial arts school, and it was called Martial Arts International. People used to call it MAI, and that was our first school, and it was a JKD school, and this was in '93.
Wow.
So he opened the school the same year as the first UFC.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, we were very much just JKD. But inside of JKD, obviously, is this mixed martial arts mindset and philosophy. Bruce Lee was way ahead of his time at wanting to learn and take the best of all martial arts and put it together to create your own style and your own expression of yourself. And so my father was always very open to learning all martial arts He never, no, he was never like that. And even as a kid, I mean, he did boxing, he did traditional martial arts. So he saw the benefit of learning everything. And basically all the best JKD instructors had that same mindset. And so inside of JKD, we knew that that ground fighting existed and that there was a need to know how to fight in close range. But the very first things that we learned were very like rough, like shoot fighting, pancration style stuff. They weren't that technical. Catch as catch can, catch wrestling.
Yeah.
And I did some of that as a kid, but then he discovered jiu-jitsu in one of the JKD instructor conferences that they would hold every year in LA. They brought the Gracies in, and this was right around the time of the first UFC. He was just starting his school and everything. And my dad, he is not built like me. He's much shorter, smaller guy. These days, when I was growing up and he was in his 30s and stuff, he was walking around at 145. So he was, a smaller guy, and jiu-jitsu, it just clicked with him. He loved it. And so he fell in love with it. And as soon as he came back, he started showing me, oh, look what I learned, check this out. And keep in mind, I'm just a little kid, so I'm small then too. And so we kind of became training partners, and he would learn stuff, come home, show me, practice it with me. And I was a big kid, so I was already kind of around his size.
How old were you whenever I was going to say when you were about his size, matching him?
Like 12, 13 years old, I was already around 145. Yeah. Right. I was becoming a lightweight,
MMA fighter. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I was 235 in 8th grade.
What?
Yeah. 8th grade.
What?
I was 235. It wasn't a good 235, but I was 235. Graduated high school at 285.
Oh my goodness.
Cause that was the wrestling weight class. So I got right up to it. But yeah, I could see how that's just beautiful that a father and son, like they had that kind of relationship. Mm-hmm. I think that's really adds to the legacy. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think it's beautiful to see a father fall in love with this art so much so that his son's not on the sidelines because he can't be out there, but with his GI Joes because he's just a little too young. But once he was old enough, he was teaching you everything that he learned. Yeah. And then you guys were getting great, phenomenal, world class together.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
We've always trained together. There was him teaching me and, just making me tough when I was young. I'm an only child. So, he got to put all his energy into me and beat me up. He was the one beating me up and, made me tough. But then, as I got older, and particularly with jiu-jitsu, with the striking arts, it's different. Like you don't get as close, and it's a different, the feeling of two bodies working together harmoniously and understanding that you're trying to perform techniques, I'm trying to perform techniques, and there's a strategy, there's thought, there's plan, you hit this new level of a bond.
Yeah. And didn't you guys do that also with, I think this would be interesting because not everyone listening's doing martial arts right now currently, but you can almost relate it to martial arts, especially jiu-jitsu, is like a human chess match. And then you and Papa Bear would do chess and Stratego, right?
Stratego.
Together. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think always strategy games.
My dad, he secretly was just trying to make me into a combat like genius or whatever since I was a young kid.
And you are.
Well,
he did a good job at that.
Maybe he had some mad scientists. I don't know if he was doing it all on purpose. He was really thinking like that or what, or, it's just the things he was into too. Yeah. But yeah, we were also very competitive. Yeah. And chess was one of the first things that I put all my competitive juices into with the goal of being able to beat my father. Of course, martial arts, I was too young and he was too good. And so he always got the better of me. But chess was like, okay, when it came to chess, I have a chance. I want to beat him. And
when did you get there?
To be honest, I can't remember. I mean, I remember winning games, but I don't remember how old I was exactly and
Sure.
anything, but I remember how much it meant to me.
Right.
And I would really study and try to make the best move every time. But that was how we were, it was a lot more like, I mean, I'll put it this way, growing up inside the academy, has its beauty and then also has its hardships, I mean, being an entrepreneur, and at this time, mixed martial arts didn't really exist yet. Like the UFC was this barbaric thing.
And they made it illegal on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But you could watch the porn on pay-per-view, but you couldn't get UFC.
Right. And you almost didn't even want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was no market for what we were offering.
That's hard.
It would have been a lot better to be a karate school at that time.
Right.
We were too far ahead of our time. And so the business suffered because of that. And so there was a lot of hardships during that time. My dad had to work so hard and just 24/7. He was a one-man show from, doing, answering calls, talking with people as they came in, teaching all the classes, just every piece of the business he was front and center doing himself. And so, I didn't get a lot of dad time. If I wanted to see my dad, I had to go to the academy. And then naturally I'm doing class or I'm training with him, learning from him, being coached by him. And so, it was amazing and beautiful to share that with him. And we still do it to this day and we love it. But running a business, a family business, a small business like that, particularly in that market, at that time was really tough. And there were just a lot of tough years where, he wasn't sure, like he was bouncing on the sides. He was trying to pick up any other side gigs that he could to make money. And so I didn't see my dad. We didn't see him at home very much. He was at the academy all day and then he would bounce in the evenings, even work with police and do ride-alongs and help them. And just, he was hustling every way he could to provide for the family. And then as things developed, as I became a teenager and we fell in love with jiu-jitsu and we were trying to learn more jiu-jitsu, anything that he did have, he invested into me. And that's still like, I can still, of course, as you grow up and you mature and you get older and you look back and you realize the sacrifice and the hardship and you see it from an adult eyes instead of a kid eyes, knowing how much my parents made my dream come true and what they put into me and my dad kind of sacrificing his ability to go travel and do fun stuff to put it into me so I could learn and get to where I am today. I mean, if I talk about it more, I'll get really emotional about it, but that's why fast forward, he's in my corner for every fight. And for that title fight, I walked out to him playing the organ and just to commemorate, I wouldn't be who I am today by any means. If it wasn't for my father and really the blend of my parents, being an only child, I feel so lucky that I kind of got to get a lot of the best out of my parents in their own way. My mom really balanced me on the kind of softer side, right? Yeah. And my dad, that harder side. And it's just beautiful how everything worked out. But she was so supportive of everything as well. I mean,
she's your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, with father and son just beating each other up all the time.
I love her and her sweet hugs, the biggest smile. I mean, just ready to greet anyone that walks in the door. And she is y'all's two biggest cheerleaders whenever it comes to that. And Deanna's also. But it's been, I can relate a lot because I'm the only child and my parents had a family ran business and they were working 7 days a week. They did it together. And then at dinner, sometimes it wasn't actually conversation about much but work and things like that. But in many ways, they supported my dream too. I mean, they made a big sacrifice to where I could go 67 miles from Crowley, Texas, and drive through Fort Worth, Arlington, and Dallas to get to Bishop Lynch and learn under two Olympic gold medalists in wrestling. And so I can relate a lot. And So, I mean, I know that you would have plans, I bet. I've heard you say over the years that you want to be a father. And so when that time comes, what would be an attribute that you would love to put into your children, you and Deanna, being able to take on that role, just like your mother and father that did such a good job with you? Like, what would be something you want to impart into them?
Oh man. Of course, selfishly, I would want them to fall in love with martial arts as well. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl. And I think a lot of that would be, hey, this is what we do, and I want you to at least have a basic level education to know how to take care of yourself, know how to use your body and move, and just know what dad does, what I've given my life to, and the people, the amazing people that I have in my life through that. Mm-hmm. And so I would want to impart at least a basic level education of martial arts, just for their own confidence, understanding, and then if they really take to it, of course, the discipline, the respect, the humility. I think, the same things you get from wrestling is just stuff where different sports or arts where it's solo, it's just you. It really takes it up a notch to the character that you develop versus a team sport. Not to say team sports aren't amazing too and working together, but jiu-jitsu and martial arts, wrestling, you work as a team, but then you compete as an individual. So you really get like this crazy depth of bond and understanding of being a good training partner, being a good human for other humans.
Yeah.
And lifting each other up and motivating each other and pushing and learning together, working together on a mission. But then you go out there and it's on you. Mm-hmm. And so then the responsibility is on you, how you overcome pressure and temporary failures and what, how do you stay calm and breathe and stay positive when everything's coming down on you. And for me, it's so beautiful. And obviously I'd love to make my own little champions.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the very baseline, who knows, maybe they get my dad's music genes and they want to go all in on music, whatever. I want them to live their passion. And at the end of the day, that's what I stand for. I feel that the best life is one where you live your passion and you go all in. And that's where you can make the greatest impact, for those around you, because you're living with love and inspiration. And at the end of the day, I just want them to be inspired by that or see that influence from me and go do what they love.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I bet Amy would have something on this because she is a mom. A mom. Did I say a mom?
You did. Did you go British?
I went British. Yeah.
I mean, why not?
But she's a mom. She's got two girls, and one's very musically inclined. One's very athletic. Mm-hmm. One's got a rock concert this weekend.
Ooh, well, to kind of go along with what you're saying, yeah, they just pick up whatever you're doing. Mm-hmm. So when you have so much passion in your life about whatever it is, I think that they do. And like, they've picked up music, they can carry a tune just because they've heard me do it forever. And that's rewarding in its own way. Like, you're like, I'm rubbing off, in some way. And it's just such a beautiful testament to jiu-jitsu, just what you just said about all the things that it can bring. I think that about you and all you, what a master you are. So yeah, thank you. Really beautiful.
And then they're going to have my wife's energy. She, with Colombia and, she loves to dance and the love of the family. And so and she's beautiful. So I'm a little nervous of the beautiful girls just having my number. They're going to get what they want out of dad every time. But Mama will be tough. Mama will be tough.
Yeah. And also I think you'll scare off any of the boys coming around.
I hope
as
so.
they get older.
That's the plan.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have an army of hundreds of jiu-jitsu guys ready.
I'm in that army. Yeah. I'm in that army for sure too. So you can call on me as well. I think I was telling Amy on the drive over, one question I wanted to ask you about was about love. We're going to get to jiu-jitsu and dive into that, but I've loved watching you fall in love. And what has that meant to you? Like having, Deanna's support and her being there for you. And then what's one of the favorite things about y'all's relationship?
Man. Well, I'm a lover for sure. I love being in a relationship. I love, coming home to somebody and sharing, and, I like being on a mission together. I'm on a mission with my team, and then I have a life mission, and I like to be on that mission, with a partner, my life partner. And, she's just been incredible for me. She helped me through some very challenging times in my life, particularly going through everything with fighting and the brain condition and all that drama, that just came out of left field and hit me hard.
Right.
And particularly with her background, a Latina, and she's just like, when they love deep, it's all in, and that's how I am. I'm an all in kind of person, with everything that I do. And so we complement each other very well with that. And she's just been amazing. She moved from Miami to Oklahoma to be with me. And that transition is as extreme as it sounds. Miami, Oklahoma, little different. Beautiful Miami, and Oklahoma can be beautiful in its way, but it's anything under 60 is cold for her. So right. She had to get a whole new wardrobe and deal with winters for the first time, and all of that. And that just seeing that's how much she loves me, just made me want to do better in every way. And it's continually been that way. She, relationships, I think a good relationship is also a challenge, right? Like, of course it's work and it requires effort, but anything worthwhile requires effort, right? If it's easy, it doesn't mean that much. It's not worthwhile, right? If you accomplish something and you just got there, boom, it doesn't mean that much, right? It's like if you win a lottery and you get $1 million, okay, yeah, you're happy. But if you worked and built something and went through a whole journey to earn $1 million, that's a worthwhile thing that you're proud of. And so, she keeps me on my toes, man. She puts me in place whenever I need to be in place and keeps me grounded. She truly makes me a better person. And that's what it's about, and she's very passionate. Yeah. I love her so much, and
it's beautiful.
She brings out the best in me.
Well, now that I'm not in Oklahoma City, I don't get to see you guys up close and personal as much, but I love watching y'all together. I loved being there, seeing you guys get married, and then also love seeing the pictures of y'all together.
And she's working in the academy now.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, which has been beautiful. She's
family legacy.
Yeah, and she really like her character is perfect for that. She was an entrepreneur before, and she owned a business, and so coming in and putting her skills and her eyes into that, she helps me so much, and she also now can take a bit of ownership with everything, and it's just beautiful, and it made me, like, in so many different ways. There's like these moments where I'm like, I love you even more now, love you even more. And that was another time when she came in and she was like,
well, she even jumped on the mats. On the mats. She's training.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And I'm going to switch it up a little bit, but dude, thank you for sharing everything that you've shared so far. I opened this book. It's called The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah.
And I opened this today.
The obstacle is the way.
Obstacle is the way.
I have those.
Great. Well, maybe we can jump into that and how you can apply that to life from jiu-jitsu, from martial arts. But I thought this was applicable to me, but I thought maybe you'd get something out of it today too. It says, get active in your own rescue. Stop wandering about. You aren't likely to read your own notebooks or ancient histories or anthologies you've collected to enjoy in your old age. Get busy with life's purpose. Toss aside empty hopes. Get active in your own rescue. If you care for yourself at all, and do it while you can. That was Marcus Aurelius, who's actually around my neck on this coin. That's an ancient Roman denarius. But the purpose of all our reading and studying is to aid in the pursuit of the good life and death. At some point, we must put our books aside and take action so that, as Seneca put it, the words become works. There's an old saying that a scholar made is a soldier spoiled. We want to be both scholars and soldiers in the good fight. That's what's next for you. Move forward, move onward. Another book isn't the answer. The right choices and decisions are. Who knows how much time you have left or what awaits us tomorrow.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty powerful. I flipped it open to that one. I was like, get active in your own rescue.
I posted something on Monday, a little thing I wrote up, and it was like basically about creating your masterpiece, that life is short. There's no predetermined amount of time that we're going to be here, but that's also what makes it beautiful, because that's the motivation. What can I do with the time that I have, with the body, the mind, the voice, that you have. And inside of that, I think is just making sure that you live your passion, and do what you feel your purpose is. And maybe you have to explore a little bit to find your purpose. But me, I was very fortunate. I grew up into my passion. But I think that's kind of essentially life's purpose, is to find that thing and then go all in on it, and then make your mark as much as you can with that. And because you're going to touch people, you're going to reach people in a deeper way when you do what you love.
Do you remember whenever I reached out to you the first time? I was moving from Colorado to Oklahoma City.
I do.
And then I started reaching out to everybody on the team.
Yeah. I think I heard from one of the other guys before I actually responded to you. I think I got your message and I was kind of like, let me think about this. Let me figure out who this guy is for sure. And, do my research. And then like the next day or whatever, a couple of days later, one of the guys was like, hey, did you hear from this guy, Justin Wren, Big Pygmy? And I was like, yeah, I did. Let's talk about him. And sure enough, boom.
Well, I had seen your flow grappling documentary, The American.
That was right when they were getting going, 2016. Yeah. And I think I was one of their first documentaries that they did. Yeah.
And it was incredible. So anyone listening, you can go look up flow grappling, Google The American, Rafael Lovato Jr. Is the title The American because people used to always think you were Brazilian?
Yeah, they still do.
Rafael.
Yeah.
Instead of Rafael.
In fact, sitting there with St. Pierre today, I had to let him know he thought I was Brazilian too. So it's still out there as much as I've tried to educate everybody.
I'm Spanish.
Yeah.
American, but from Spanish origins.
I think that's why they titled it that. And especially at that time, there was, the jiu-jitsu is very much Brazilian dominated. And even though that was just 5-6 years ago, there just now recently was kind of an explosion of more American jiu-jitsu world champions, black belt world champions. There's been a couple more in the recent years. Onnit.com/overcome. You can save yourself 10%. Also, right now, you can save yourself 30% on Total Human, something that I am about to stock back up on.
I know. We haven't had it lately, and I miss it so much because I was diligently
Taking
Using
the
Total
morning
Human.
support
Yeah, and feeling really good.
and the night support pack.
I love it.
Well, let's order some right after this.
Please.
Yeah. Thank you, On It, so much for sponsoring this podcast, for believing in me, the show, our listeners, and also Fight for the Forgotten. I have On It Black Label right now. That is, I actually just took it.
I
feel
took
great.
Alpha Brain. I took a regular packet today because I love those,
Yeah.
especially before we
What
record.
flavor?
I did the blackberry lemonade.
Yeah, I
Is
think
that what
that's
it's
what it
called?
is,
Let me
yeah.
see. Hold on. Put that right here.
I think it's blackberry
Here it
lemonade.
is. Yes, blackberry lemonade.
It's
That's
open
one
for proof
is like
that
my
you drank
favorite, I
it.
think.
Yeah, I love that
know,
one.
it's proof.
In the focus shots for Alpha Brain, I love
Mhm.
their tropical, which has passion fruit in it. It's my favorite fruit in the world. Reminds me of being in Africa and going and picking passion fruit in the bushes.
hmm
And yes, so Alpha Brain Black Label, that I think is incredible, as well as their focus shots. I love normal Alpha Brain. I've been taking it for 8 to 10 years now. And to have the stuff with a little bit of caffeine in it, that's plant derived, I really like that because I feel like it just kind of takes it up a notch and I get in that flow state quicker and I stay there longer.
Keeps you in the zone.
Keeps me in the zone.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alpha Brain. Thank you, On It. And onit.com/overcome. Save yourself 10% and also get yourself 30% off Total Human. Again, onit.com/overcome. onit.com/overcome. Now back to the show. Which you were the second to ever win the black belt world championships. Is that right?
When I did it, they said second, but then
Or were you
it's
the
kind
first?
of been reanalyzed, I guess, and they officially I'm the third.
Okay.
Robert Drysdale has both Brazilian and American citizenship. I believe his father was Brazilian, his mom was American, but he grew up in Brazil, but then went to high school in the U.S. And so he kind of had a little bit of both. He was living in Brazil when he won the Worlds. But he was in 2005. I was in 2007, and BJ was the first one.
Right.
BJ Penn.
What year did he do it? Did you do
2000.
it before? 2000.
2000. So
Yeah.
the first year I went to Brazil was 99, and that was life changing in many different ways.
Yeah. So what was it like?
I had just turned 16
16 years old,
I just
traveling to
turned 16.
Brazil.
without my parents.
Wow.
Yeah, there's only enough
To
money
compete with
to
the
get
best
one
in
of
the
us
world.
there. Yeah. And I'm from Oklahoma, and I'm seeing a third world country, barely 16. My birthday was at the end of June, and I go in July.
Wow.
And so very green, very young. And boom, I see real poverty, real hardship, real, crime. And it was very eye-opening.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning. As soon as we arrived, that drive from the airport to get to a nicer area it'll hit you if you've never seen anything like
Culture
that.
shock. I've
All the
experienced it.
favelas,
Yep.
the favelas. Yeah, crazy culture shock. And I remember once we got to the hotel, I go with a group of Americans from Texas. That's where our first jiu-jitsu professor, Carlos Machado, he was the first Brazilian to move to our area of the country. My father and I, we were just on our own at all times, learning from tapes or the couple of trips he would do a year to go to California. And then Carlos moved to Texas like in 95. And so right when I was around 12 years old, we were able to start going down to see him, 12, 13 years old. And I think he got there at the end of 95. So it was like 96. 96 was the first time I went there. And we were just driving down to train with him in Dallas. So, very similar, driving 3.5 hours each way. And we would go, like my dad would go every week. I would go when I didn't have school. But he had a group of competitors there from Texas, and I went down with them. And I remember after we got there, of course it's a long trip, it's like a 10-hour flight. And everyone passed out, wanted to take a nap once we got to the hotel. And I was just wide awake. I was just like, whoa, I can't believe I'm in another country. I can't believe I'm in Brazil. Like, that was crazy. And I wanted to take a shower. And this was funny. You had to like light a furnace, right? To get hot water.
Right.
I didn't know that. I've never experienced that. And so I took a cold shower and I was like, dude, they don't have hot water here. Like, this is crazy. Like, which is it the other? No, which way? Like, how do I get hot? No. I didn't know how to light the furnace. I didn't even know where the furnace was or anything. I never done that before. And then there was just several other moments, where, you saw all the homeless people, and I'll never forget this too. And we were in a taxi ride. This is pretty sad, but just to paint the picture. And I know, we've heard your stories, things that you've gone through and seen in the Congo. This way more insane than this, but one of the things that really struck me, all the homeless people, and they're begging for money, trying to get money. And man, we were on a taxi ride, and keep in mind, I'm just barely 16. I'm in the summer between my sophomore and junior year of high school. A woman begging for money comes up right onto the taxi window, and she pulls her shirt up and puts her breasts on the window, and you can see the lumps, so she was suffering
breast
from
cancer.
Yeah. From cancer, trying to, ask for money to help.
Right.
And I was just like, whoa, so as soon as I went back home, I was just like, man, life is good here.
Yeah.
And I was just all of a sudden this extra sense of gratitude. I think traveling is the best education you can have for life. And that's one of the best perks of what I do, is getting to travel the world and teach and learn and experience all the different cultures. But that shook me. Shook me. I was like, whoa. And I was like so kind of depressed. And I remember trying to train after that. And I was just like, man, we have it so good, and then of course, everything else with fighting at the Worlds and just, all of that. But as far as the jiu-jitsu goes, I was just greatly, greatly inspired after seeing, the best in the world compete in Brazil, in the motherland. And then the next year, I got to watch BJ Penn win the Worlds in 2000 when I went the next year.
You got to see it live.
I saw it live.
That's incredible.
And shout out to BJ. That was life-changing. And right then, right there, I remember telling the guys next to me, I said, I'm going to be the next one to do that.
Wow.
I was just 17, blue belt. So I had some years to go, but sure enough, 7 years later, I was able to do it. Yeah.
That's incredible, man. What an inspiring story. And I think the contrast, or I don't know if the word's dichotomy or what, where it's just like some of the best in the world to ever do it are coming out of a place that oftentimes they're fighting, scrapping to make it out of.
Yeah.
And you've experienced that when your fight camps, you were going down to Brazil while you're fighting for the MMA World Championship. And to get there, you're going down there to Curitiba, Brazil. And I've probably slaughtered the word, how to say it.
Oh, you're good.
And training with people like Vanderlei Silva and all these up and comers, that this is their way out of poverty, out of what you just saw for the first time whenever you were just barely 16 years old.
Yeah.
And
Brazil has had it's been very near and dear to me in my martial arts journey. It's kind of been there, side by side with me the whole time. In the early years, going to Rio and Sao Paulo for jiu-jitsu, all the way from the end of the 90s into the 2000s, into the teens. And then I switched to MMA, and then I started going to this new place in Brazil, Curitiba, where they're famous for the Muay Thai and their MMA history. And then I had this whole other experience with Brazil in relationship to Brazil beyond jiu-jitsu. Now it's Muay Thai and MMA. And man, I love it. Fighting in Brazil, competing in Brazil, back in my time, you had to go to Brazil for jiu-jitsu. Now, people they don't realize how spoiled they are to have so many world-class, high-level jiu-jitsu greats to learn from and have access to right there, all over the country, all over the world. And for me, I had to go to Brazil to get that. And as hard as it was, I'm so grateful that I came up in that time and I got to see it. It wasn't the roots, but almost. For sure. As far as the sport goes, maybe not the art, but as far as the sport itself goes, it basically was still in its roots. I was there at the 3rd World Championships.
Wow.
And now they're 25 plus. And so, I'm so grateful that I got to see it in that pure form before media, social media, the internet, and you could be like famous.
Right.
When it was just about doing what you love and representing your team and your family and the passion, that energy, man, it gave me goosebumps, and they're in there, shirts off, banging on the drums, like, and guys just like the screams, the chants, they were chanting and everything. It was just like, whoa, that was me at 16 being inside of that.
Yeah.
I was like, this is raw. This is very, very raw,
And two of your brothers, Shanji and Salo, they basically came out of the jungle, right?
Yeah,
the Amazon.
Yeah. I just said that in a post. Like never in my life, because today's Shanji's birthday.
Yeah.
Much
Happy
love,
birthday, Shanji.
Much love to my brother from another mother.
Yeah.
And I never thought being a kid in Oklahoma that I would have an Amazonian brother.
Yeah,
but I do.
You do.
And I have brothers all over the world.
And I love that picture of Shanji that is, he's jumping over the cage.
Yeah.
And before the 5th round of your world championship fight against Gegard Mousasi, which you had to dig so deep, and he was able to, because the cut man's getting in there, so 2 guys can't go in.
Yeah.
And so
and Mauricio, my head coach, who's also a brother.
Yeah.
Amazing human. He was inside, but I told Shanji, just make sure you get that ice pack on me. And I wasn't expecting to get cut, but then I do, so he can't go in. And he still gets that ice pack on me, climbs over the cage, and then he's yelling in my ear, one more takedown for your life, for the rest of your life, and just giving me that energy. You got this. You can get this round. One more takedown, telling me. I remember starting to nod like, yes, I can do this. Him and Mauricio, same thing. Just one more round. And knowing that your father's right there in your corner as well. Yeah.
I mean, that's just beautiful. I love that picture. People should go to your Instagram to see that photo, because his butt's the highest thing in the air and his feet are completely off the ground.
Yeah.
And he is reaching as far down as he can to put that ice pack on you. You have it pulled up. Isn't that beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that.
And if you look at the one before, so that's him having my back, being in my corner, and then there's me having his back, being in his corner at one of the most epic ADCC matches of all time. And Shanji got a headbutt. That's actually the first time he had ever been cut. So I gave him a bunch of, I gave him a hard time after that. I was like, man, you made it all these years doing combat and you just now got cut. Me, I get cut. I was getting cut like all the time. I've probably been cut in my face, around my eyes, over 20 times for sure. But how freaking savage that picture.
Yeah,
look at his face. He's just like, he's focused.
Epitome of a warrior.
Yeah.
Just both of you guys. What's that moment like where, so for me, going into a fight, I'm excited and I'm looking forward to it and I'm pumped up and I'm focused, but I don't get the same type of nervous energy I do whenever someone I love, you, walking in there to fight. So seeing Shanji go in there and you're getting him pumped up, getting him excited. What are the things you're looking to do whenever you're instructing someone, whenever you're coaching? Because you're one of the greatest coaches also, not just competitors. And that's a different skill to also be a great teacher and coach.
Yeah. And to be honest, I have a great sense of passion and love for that. I mean, that's something that particularly with competitors and coaching competitors, because I never had a coach for many, many years, basically until I was already a black belt, whenever I got close to Sensei Salo and Shanji. And even then they were competing at the same time as me. So not always could they be in my corner. And I grew up just traveling all over to these competitions and kind of competing by myself and not having a coach. And I would always think about what I wish someone would do for me and how they would be there for me. And then I try to, give that to my students whenever I coach them. And then of course, someone like Shanji that I love so much. The number one thing I think is just like, of course you have to read the individual. Some people do better with that kind of fire energy.
I know I do.
They need that. Yeah, I definitely felt that from you. And then there are others that need to be calmed down a little bit, need to be brought down. Shanji, he's notorious for being almost too relaxed. He's so technically efficient and really doesn't make mistakes that he can kind of just go on cruise control. And in that particular match, he was facing someone who was about 50 pounds heavier than him. And on paper, the greatest of all time. He's won more world titles than anybody else. And he's a great guy, a legend, an inspiration. That's Marcus Buchecha. And so this was an epic match, one that we had talked about for a long time. And I'd actually competed against Buchecha the year before. And you know, we were really excited for this match. And it was first round. It happened like first round. It was like, whoa, we're doing this match right now. And it was the open weight. And so I just wanted to get Shanji fired up because I didn't want him to start too slow and let Buchecha, you know, get ahead and stuff like that. So when I coach Shanji, and usually for the most of the time, you know, there are a few people I'll see, okay, well, I'm going to actually bring them down. They're a little nervous. They're, you know, just keep them calm. But with Shanji, I was trying to fire him up. And if you watch that match on Flow Grappling, you can hear me yelling the whole time. I don't think I really stopped. I was giving instructions, things that I could see. You know, you always want to tell them what you see that maybe they don't see, you know, and kind of getting in the head of their opponent. I can see what their opponent's thinking and wanting to do, and then I'm trying to give Shanji the heads up. But then whenever I'm not instructing, I'm just trying to be positive and give him fire, like push, you can go, you can do more. When things are going bad, you're okay, relax, breathe. You're going to, like, he got caught in a bit of a choke position in that match. It wasn't close, but it was something where the other guy, you know, might like really try to finish Shanji. And I, of course, I believe in Shanji's defense and his escapes. I believe in him in everything. But in that particular moment, I was just like, you're fine. You're going to escape. You're going to turn this into a good opportunity. Stay calm. You're good. You know, you keep them calm when you need to, but always positive. And when the match is picking up speed, there's a scramble or, you know, where you have to explode, then I'm just like trying to follow that energy and like, yeah, go, stick up, you know, stick with it, believe in it, take it, it's yours, go. And I try not to say things that are like, I think you can, you know, it's always you can and you will, you know, you will escape. You will come back. Don't worry. You have time. You're going to come back. Not let's try to come back. Yeah. You know, that's not the same.
That doesn't do anything. Yeah. That's not a lot of belief in the voice.
Right.
That's right there to coach you through to victory. Thing that I love, one of my favorite times to ever train, and all the years and all the places I've done it, is obviously with you, but on competition day.
Yeah.
And sitting
the competition training.
Competition training. Yeah.
Saturdays.
Competition training.
We have
Saturdays.
a world famous competition training Saturday mornings. That's definitely my favorite day of the week. That's where of course I'm doing most of it with everybody, but you know, I think as a teacher, of course I love to teach technique. I love to pass on knowledge and, you know, the details and the concepts and all those things, the artistic side. But what I really love is to inspire people, inspire people to fight for their dreams, to give their best, to work hard, you know, to feel some pain, to feel yourself depleted and give your best. And you have to do that in training. You know, it has to become like an instinct, like a habit, right? It has to be a habit to go that far. And so whenever we're training on Saturdays, I just try to make an understanding that, guys, we're here today. Yes, we're working our technique and we're honing our skills, but what we're really here to do is work our heart and our minds and give our absolute best and push each other hard. lift each other up when we need to, just so we can go hard again, and go to that I got nothing left level, and then past, and then one more, and when you can train your mind and your heart to never break and keep going, man, then you can do anything, and that's it. And that's what I want for my students, like all of them, but especially the ones that want to compete and challenge themselves on that level. I don't care if they lose matches because the other person's better. What I care is when they have more and they kind of gave up on themselves. They didn't go all the way. And as long as I can train them to go all the way, it doesn't matter to me win or lose. If they fight and leave everything out there. And, that's one thing my dad, he said so many things to me when I was a kid that when I look back on it, just like, wow, that was like heavy. It was kind of intense, but then as a kid, you just soak it all up. Yes, yes. And one thing he used to say to me is a saying very similar to what Carlson Gracie used to say, but basically he would tell me very similar, like it's not about winning or losing, but you make sure whoever beats you, they remember your name. You earn their respect. He would tell me that. Yeah. He's like, you let them know that you were there to fight, and they remember you. He used to tell me that, and I was like, okay, that's pretty intense, Dad. But my dad is an intense man. Yeah, and back then it was like, yes, sir. And I've carried that with me my whole life. Yeah. And I believe that's it. Like if you don't give up. The quote I have it on the back of my shirt, I know you've heard me say it a million times, but victory is always possible for the person who refuses to stop fighting. I mean, that's how it had to be for us because I wasn't on that level. I was going to Brazil. We didn't have world-class jiu-jitsu right there in Oklahoma. I took my losses. I took my beatings and I kept showing up. And I mean, I've been beat up in every stage of my life, growing up, my dad beat me up, and then in the academy, I had guys beating me up. And then when I got to a place where, I was a big kid and I was kind of the best in Oklahoma, then I'm going to Brazil. I'm going all over the world. I'm getting beat up somewhere else. Then I get to a pretty good level and I meet Salo and Shanji and I would travel all over the world to be with them so they could beat me up, and then I get to a level in jiu-jitsu where, okay, I'm not getting beat up so much anymore in jiu-jitsu. Time to do MMA. Let's get beat up all over again. And then I'm going to Curitiba, Brazil and getting beat up again over and over and over again. Now I'm getting old. Now I got Victor Hugo and these young guys beating me up. So just keep getting beat up. That's the secret.
But I think, yeah, let's go into that. That being the secret. Almost the obstacle is the way, always taking on a new challenge and then just being consistent. I think that that's one of the most inspiring things I've seen about you is I think you're one of the most healthily obsessed with being better. Maybe not always, but the consistency to always show up. I think that can be a challenge for me, someone that struggles with addiction, being all in or all out, where I want to be all in when it comes to martial arts. And I'm wanting to make a comeback to MMA. And so it's really inspiring to me wherever anyone else is in their life, whether it's work, job, their passion, the guy that's behind you his that sign is Doug Does Art. I remember he shared a story about this dream. Now he's got TikToks with like 68 million views on it. And there's like a whole slew of them, like 10, 20, 30 that have like tens of millions of views. But he was in a family business. It was a landscaping business. And he had to make a choice. Am I going to just be part of the family business, which he wanted to do? Or is he going to follow his passion, which is outside of that scope? And is he going to pursue this with love and passion? And is he going to show up consistently? And is he just going to do it? And he was releasing his videos, not getting anything really on it, not really getting anything on it, putting all this time into it. But I think there's something that you can speak to there that's just like, what's the importance of the belief in the passion that you have and then the consistency to show up and see it through, even through the obstacles or headed towards the obstacles.
And that's where I think it has to be you fulfilling your purpose. You know, if it's something that you're not passionate about, you're not fully in love with, you're not going to keep showing up. I mean, you're going to get tested and have those breaking moments, even when it is your passion, of course. And, you know, going back to Napoleon Hill, his quotes, it's like, your greatest success is always one step away from your greatest failure. The greatest failure is just quitting. So if you keep going, I'm an optimist, and I'm a believer. I always believe in myself. I believe everyone can do anything, anything they set their mind to. I fully believe that. And I think it is your destiny to do that. So, you know, keep going, that believe, going all in, you have to go all in. You know, you can't really have a plan B. It has to be, everything's on plan A, you know, for it to truly work, because then you're not all in. And if you're not all in, how do you expect to get the results? If you're still, I'm still over here, you know, when I was a brown belt, I was in college. When I graduated high school, I went to college. My dad really, he didn't want me to live martial arts as my way of life, as my business, you know, or however I made money. Because remember, at that time, it wasn't making money. Right. He was losing money. Yeah. He was investing more than what he was making. And he, you know, we both never imagined it would be what it is today. And I'd have, you know, these opportunities, and UFC, mixed martial arts, Bellator, everything would be as big as it is today. Jiu-Jitsu, my goodness. I remember, I mean, you lost money doing Jiu-Jitsu. You didn't make money doing Jiu-Jitsu. You lost a lot of money. We spent thousands of dollars to go to Brazil and compete for free. Thousands of dollars to go somewhere to train and learn one move, you know? That's how it was. But now it is where it is today. And I was in school and it still didn't see that possibility. And I was a brown belt. I knew I wanted to be a black belt world champion, but I knew that I couldn't. I hated school, to be honest. At that point, I just really was not into it. And I made really good grades in high school. I was almost a valedictorian, actually, of my class. And like, that should have been something I was good at, but my love for jiu-jitsu was taking over, and I wasn't doing that great in college. I didn't want to be there. And finally I got the courage, you know, I met Salo. I competed against Salo. That's how I met Salo. And we stayed in touch, and then he came, my dad brought him for a seminar. We trained, and he gave me the opportunity. He said, go to Brazil, and stay as long as you can, train with my brother every day. We have the team there. We'll make sure you're set up. And I had a sponsor, onthemat.com, right. Scotty Nelson, who I was just with a week ago. They have a house, like a hostel. Well, it was nicer than a hostel, but it was a house in Brazil, where they were housing foreigners to come stay and train in Brazil and compete in Brazil. And so he basically was sponsoring me to stay there. You know, I just had to pay the bills, but I didn't have to pay rent. And I had that opportunity from Salo. I was like, finally, someone's giving me the opportunity to really be a part of a team and mentor me, you know, and Salo was a legend. I was like, okay, I got to talk to my parents. And so I sit him down and I talked to my dad, and I was like, look, I can't look back with any regrets. I have to know that I went all in. So I'm going to drop out of college. And it took a little bit of persuading, but he got it because he lives his passion. Right. But he knew that I would need to make money someday. And so he made me promise to go back to school, which I never did. But I dropped out, racked up a bunch of credit card debt, flew down to Brazil, stayed there for 4 months. And that was it. That was the beginning. And then I became a black belt, and I kept charging up the credit card, and then moving the balance over to another credit. You know, I was doing that to get by as I was training with Saul and Shanji in those early years. And then things started happening, and it started paying off. But I just believe that that's what has to be done. You know, you look at any successful person in business, in athletics, they all have something like that. You know, even Michael Jordan was cut from his high school team. He could have quit then. Oh, I'm not that good at this. Everyone has a point where they're going to be tested to want to quit. And that's the most important moment of your life.
Got to make that sacrifice and push all the chips in.
Yeah.
Just like you did.
Have to double down.
Yep. I love that. Well, let's talk about, maybe in closing, I'm going to put you on the spot at the end. I'm going to ask for a competition training pep talk, maybe at the end as we close up. But I would love to talk about Gegard Mousasi and your fight for the world championship in Bellator MMA, and a little bit of what you were going into that fight with, hanging over your head, and then, how you had to dig deeper than ever before to get that championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I kind of mentioned it earlier in our conversation, but out of nowhere, for this fight, there was the first fight I did where I was required to get a brain scan done. And
because you're fighting in London at the O2 Arena, right?
Yes. And in the US, the only places that require a brain scan is California and New York.
Right.
And I had never fought in those states. Every other place I fought in, it wasn't required.
And is that after 30 or 35, I think, in California and New York? I don't think you have to do it for every fight. Maybe.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
So yeah. And because I never had a concussion, never had any issues. I hardly ever even get headaches. I don't even really get headaches. I just never had a reason to get a brain scan done.
Never been knocked out because you're always taking people down and controlling them. And
for the most part, I had a pretty clean career up to that point. I'd never been in any danger in any fight. Never been hurt or anything. So anyways, they required it. So 6 weeks before the fight, I go and get my routine scan done. And sure enough, they discovered something. And the guy really kind of delivered it to me in a very not cool way. He's just like, you got a problem. You shouldn't be doing what you're doing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, look at all this. And he showed me. And I'm like, okay, but I'm fine. What are you talking about? I don't get what you're saying or what you're seeing here, because I'm fine. And anyways, it's kind of a long story, but to keep it short, I come to find out I have a condition called cavernoma. It was something that I was born with. And for the next 4 weeks of camp, and literally the next day I was flying to Brazil, I had no idea what I was doing, if this fight was going to happen, because I couldn't get anyone to write a letter to approve me to fight because I have a disease in my brain. And that was the next 4 weeks of my camp, the prime time camp time.
Right. The most important, crucial time.
Right. And I'm in Brazil and we're going hard, and I'm not sleeping. I'm depressed. I'm crying multiple times a day. Why? Because number one, I'm worried about my health. I'm like, okay. And of course I Google, and then you just read horror stories.
Yeah, WebMD.
Yeah. You read horror stories of people that have the same thing, they go into comas and seizures. They have to have brain surgeries, multiple brain surgeries. And it's possible for even death.
Right.
And
for cavernoma, it kind of makes these little caverns or caves
of vessels. These vessels grow. For whatever reason, you grow these extra blood vessels in your brain, and they kind of wrap together like vines. Okay. And they have the tendency to bleed, but very little at a time. They call it oozing. They'll ooze blood little by little. And of course, in extreme scenarios, people will have a lot all over that really bundle together and bleed extensively, and then they have to remove them ASAP. Otherwise, you're going to hemorrhage and bad things happen. And so, yeah, that's what I had, and I could see it. And so, you see something like that, and you think you're perfectly healthy, and then you see that, and you're just like, "Whoa, that's my brain." And so now every time I'm sparring and I'm getting hit in the head, I'm just like, dude, am I slowly killing myself? Like, what am I doing? And so then I'm questioning everything in my life. And of course, this is my life dream and goal, to fight for a world title. on that level, you know, the kind of opponent that I had to face was like, okay, this is where, you know, you rise to the occasion, or it's, you know, it's not meant to be. And then I have all this stress. And then the other part was just, am I even going to get approved to fight? I had no idea if that was even going to happen. And so I'm going into training every day. Like, I don't even know if this is going to happen. Am I just doing this for no reason? And then I'm taking damage that I don't need to be taking. Well, after 4 weeks and seeing many, many doctors and finally getting a letter and sending it in, I got a letter from a doctor who was very calm about my condition. He had a lot of experience with it, and basically said, hey, there's no data that supports getting hit in the head is going to make it worse. It could change at any time. And because you have no symptoms, there are no treatment, there is no cure. You know, in the locations of my cavernoma, there was only one that's a little bigger, but it was in a very safe place.
Right.
Would be easy
low risk.
Yeah, low risk, and would be easy to remove if they had to. He basically said, look, you're going to need to get consistent scans for the rest of your life now. That is what it is. And with these fights, just do one before, do one after. We'll take a look. And as long as there's no issues, you're good. Keep fighting. You're good. And so I'm like, oh, and man, at that moment, I'm crying. You know, I hug Mauricio. We cry together. Like, yes, we're going to be able to fight.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks. You know, the fight's 2 weeks. And so going through all that in that moment was so hard. And I'm just like, why, you know, why is this happening now? Is this it? You know, am I going to, you know, I was thinking, unfortunately, like Muhammad Ali is amazing inspiration, but at the end of his career and life, I mean, I had that thought in my head. I don't want to be like that. I want to have children. I want to have grandchildren. But I knew I could not do this fight. And so it just took it to another level for me of, I could have given up in that process. I could have just said, oh, it's not worth it or whatever. But I knew I worked so hard to get to that stage, and I had to challenge myself against someone at that level, that caliber, and go for a world title. That's what we'd worked for years for. I mean, it's basically my whole life.
Yeah.
And
it's your life's work. It's your masterpiece.
And my team's work too. They had put so much into me.
Yeah. And you were literally going to take the world champion's belt away. I mean, to become that world champion.
You have to.
Yeah.
And then the fight went the way it did. And, you know, there's so many moments that which it felt once again like destiny. I think as fighters, we look for that, right? We look for that extra mojo, that energy that tells us that we are doing the right thing, where we're supposed to be, and we believe, right? It helps us believe, helps us have confidence. And once I got approved, I got the email that said, you're good to fight. I mean, everything switched in my brain, and I was like, I'm fighting. I'm going to win.
It's mine.
I'm going to win. He doesn't want it as much as I want it, you know, what I went through. And
it's not as much writing on it as it is for you too. Yeah.
Right. And then just consistent things kept happening. You know, of course, my opponent was from Europe, and we're fighting in Europe. And it was just like, this is me going to Brazil my whole life as a kid.
Yeah.
And everyone's against me. You know, they don't want the gringo to win. And the whole audience, everyone, you know, they're all cheering for him. And it was like, this is just what I was meant to do. Yeah. I was made for this, you know, this moment. And I open up my book, and I see every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent advantage right there, highlighted. That's
You'll have to say that one more time. So it went by fast.
Yeah, sorry.
Let it land. No, you're good.
Every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. And I had that, you know, I had the flap in the book. So when I opened it, it went straight to that page, and it was highlighted. That was the first thing I saw. I Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. I took it with me for all my fights. I'd have it in camp, and I would look at it backstage before I walked out. It was right there with I had a picture of the Bellator belt in my bag that I carried with me. as soon as I signed to Bellator, I put it in there, and that was the first thing I saw, and I was like, oh, man, that wasn't what's going to make me lose the fight. That's what's going to make me win this fight. You just flip the script. Like, that's my advantage, not my disadvantage. And the fight went the way it went.
So powerful, man.
Two rounds to 2.
Yep.
Came down to the last round, and that was it. Like, I knew that, like, the third and fourth round, I wasn't happy. I was making mistakes. I got cut. I couldn't see. And
yeah, we were watching it actually at the Fight for the Forgotten Offices
right.
with the,
you
the
held
whole
that party.
team.
I still have the video
of
everyone jumping up and celebrating.
Yeah.
And still, if I watch that to today, it still brings tears to me.
I loved it. We were gifted this office and we had an actual almost movie screen inside. It was probably at least 10 feet, if not 12, 15 feet wide. And everyone was there, and you came out and you just owned the first 2 rounds and
half of the third.
And half of the third.
Yeah,
for
the
sure.
first 17 and a half minutes were, or 12 and a half minutes were perfect.
Perfect. I mean, it was great. And then you had to come back from adversity.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I messed up and I lost position. I landed on bottom, and he is very skilled in the ground and pound department.
One of the best to do it.
Yeah. And he cut me, and then I'm bleeding going into the fourth round. I couldn't see, and I actually got poked in my good eye, and in the other eye, there's blood in my eye, and I couldn't see, and I kind of did this number, and then an uppercut snuck in, dropped me. So fourth round wasn't good, but I survived. And then that fifth round, I don't know. I just had like this, Mauricio, Shanji in my corner telling me, and everything was like, this could be the last round I ever fight in my life. How am I going to end it? And I remember walking out to touch gloves for the fifth round, and I looked at him right in his eyes and I smiled at him. I was just like, let's go.
Yeah.
One more. And all of a sudden I just had this energy, and then I'm light on my feet again. I'm moving, and I back him up, put him against the cage, took him down, and I didn't even get touched in the last round.
Yeah.
But walking out, I was telling myself the same thing I tell myself in all my trainings: last round, best round. Last round, best round. The last round is my best round. I'm going to finish stronger than I started. And that was something that, in all my sparring rounds, conditioning rounds, when I'm on the bike, whatever, I would always go for that. I'd always try to finish my last round strong, and especially like conditioning stuff where you could actually see how many calories you burned or what time you had. I'd always try to get my best time or my best number on that last round. And of course, sparring, if a round didn't go good and it was supposed to be the last round, I might say, hey, one more round, but I just, it just felt, that's how my dad raised me. And all the beatings that I took and just kept showing up, it's kind of that vibe. Like, just keep digging deep, keep going. There's more in there than what you think. You can go further than you think. And that was a difference maker, 100%. We both needed that round. And I just wanted it more than he did.
It was beautiful. I think it was my favorite fight to watch. And
it had all the elements.
Oh man, it was incredible. And loving you so much, and being there with all your friends and loved ones and family, and just, all the elements. It's like a movie. I had dreamed of having a fight like that. And of course, you don't want that to happen just randomly. Right. If you're going to be in a fight like that, you want it to be for a world title. Right.
And sure enough, that's how it happened, and my goodness, he had over 50 fights and only lost a handful of times. And it was just my 10th fight. And I'd never been in fourth and fifth rounds. He had done several of those, been a champion for many years.
Legend, world champion.
Organizations.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there I was in the middle of it. And I was like, it was surreal. It was a dream. It was a dream.
Man. So to wrap it up, maybe we can set it up this way, where, one, thank you so much. Thank you. Incredibly grateful for you, bro.
I'm proud of you. This is amazing.
Thank you.
I love it. I know how this is your dream, you know, and this is your voice and what your purpose is.
Yeah.
And I'm just really proud of you and happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. I really want this podcast to be one of the most meaningful podcasts in the world that truly impacts people so that they can overcome, so that they can make this world better.
Yeah.
So that they can fight for people. And I want people to remember that they've overcome 100% of their darkest days.
Yeah.
And so if we could speak to that person that maybe let's say pre-COVID, they were winning those first 2 rounds. Maybe now after COVID, they've lost 2 rounds and they feel like they've been cut over the eye and poked in the other, and they've flinched and they got caught with an uppercut, and they're heading into this next round feeling beat up, feeling like is it going to slip away? Can they overcome? Mm-hmm. And maybe they're in a spot right now where they don't have that belief, but they feel it. There's that ember. There is that fire inside, but maybe you can stoke that fire or share some of your belief with them, to know that they can do it, to know that they can overcome, to know that they can come back and win this fight that is life. What would you say to that person that's feeling beat up right now or just needs that extra fire?
Well, I'll share my 4 words. You know, my 4 words that I love to just feel and kind of wrap my head around, each one specifically giving you different emotions, and it helps to dig deep. And for me, I feel like reconnect to each one of these words and what they mean to you, and inside of it is your purpose. And there's also, don't get me wrong, there's also just a bit of just do it, like just go, don't overthink. But when you need to, the words, number 1, inspired. All right. What's your inspiration? What is your purpose? You got to tap back into that. Like, what are you doing it for? Why are you here? Why are you going so hard? Why are you giving so much to this thing? Remember your dream. Remember what brought you there, what got you started. Why are you, doing this to begin with? Tap back into that. For sure. It's going to have to be a good reason, something powerful and meaningful to you, to your family, to the impact that you want to have on the world. But you have to be very closely connected to that, because when you need the discipline to just do it, to just keep going, it's for that purpose. It has a deep meaning for you and your life. So your why, your inspiration. The next one would be gratitude. Remember, it's a beautiful and amazing thing just to be alive and have the opportunity to do anything. Yeah. To have a mind, body, soul, spirit able to try. If you're just cruising, what are you really doing? You're not experiencing life. You're supposed to experience failures and doubts and tough moments, because that makes you stronger. That makes you learn more about yourself. And then it makes you a more experienced and powerful person to help the others, right? If you just get there easily, what's your story? You don't have a good story to share. It has to be hard. It's supposed to be hard. So a lot of times it's good to remember that you're exactly doing what you should be doing. This is part of the process, and be grateful for that, because it's only going to make the good time sweeter. Yeah. It's only going to make it better. So be grateful for it. Be grateful that you're even going for it, that you have this opportunity, whatever it is. And I guarantee there's some people around you that are believing in you and supporting you and giving you love. Do it for them. Be grateful for them, and gratitude, what's the saying? It's the virtue that is the foundation for all other virtues, right? Like if you are really, truly grateful for life and your being, everything else is gonna fall into place. You're gonna be inspired. You're gonna work hard. You're gonna be positive and good to others because you're grateful at all times.
So good.
So inspired, grateful, confident. Keep believing. If you're working hard and you're giving your best If it doesn't happen now, that's okay. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Just keep going. Keep going. Of course, as a competitor or a fighter, we have to be confident.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's to a fault. That's why you see guys fight too long into their career. A lot of people think that's because of money, but I believe that it's because they have the warrior spirit.
Yeah.
They never stop believing in themselves.
Right.
They believe that they still can. I can still be the best, you know?
But if you're in a fight and you're not confident, there's consequences.
There's consequences,
Right.
100%. 100%.
And life's a fight. So be confident.
Be confident. Be confident. Be confident you're doing what you're meant to do.
Hmm.
And then stay happy.
Yeah.
Happy. Keep smiling. You know, like if you are living your passion, you're living a good life. And, you know, maybe you look around, you see someone that has everything. They're more stable, comfortable, whatever. But they're not happy because they're not living for purpose. I mean, not to say they aren't perfect. The ideal way would be to have both, you know, it comes together in that way where your passion does make you financially comfortable. But just remember to smile, I think is important, you know, and that's where gratitude comes in. If you're grateful, you'll stay happy. You can take your losses and just smile and say, well, now I'm better because of it. I've learned from it. And at the end of the day, I still did what I loved. And so I'm happy for this life, you know, and I know how that is. I'm one of my own faults, so to speak, is I can put too much weight. I can get a little too heavy and I put too much on one thing and said, oh, I have to win this or I have to do this. Otherwise it's not going to lead to the next thing. And then I forget to be happy and just enjoy it. And I kind of close up and I don't maybe give all my best or open up my game and go for it. And then I look back and I said, man, I didn't enjoy it enough. I was too stressed, you know, and having a little bit of that lightheartedness can go a long way with allowing you to just perform.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I love it, man. I love it. Well, because you're in my life, I am more inspired. I am incredibly grateful. I'm more confident and I smile because
you've inspired me
man.
a lot too. You've inspired me so much. Everyone that's around you and knowing, you know, how you live for purpose and your heart, you know, you take it upon yourself to put so many things into your heart for the betterment of the whole world. And I mean, that's powerful. It's powerful.
Thank you, brother. I think this is going to help some people. I think it's powerful.
I hope so.
I'm also, it was just great, man. I love you so much. And I'm also inspired and grateful and confident and happy because Amy, my producer over there. So I love those 4 words. And one person I wanted to acknowledge real quick is Colton because it's his last day here soon. And thank you, Colton, so much. You're the man. You've made this show better. So you've inspired me. You've made me more grateful. Thank you. I'm grateful for everything you've done for me. You've made me confident in releasing these episodes. I'm just so grateful that you've been the engineer on the show and it makes me happy. So thank you, brother. Love you, man. He won't be with us long, but he's going on to bigger and better things.
Awesome.
Young gun. And I love you, brother. Thank you so much for being here. I want everyone to check out your website again. And Instagram, if you can share that with everyone. I'll do that also in the intro and outro.
Yes. So Instagram at Lovato JRBJJ. So Lovato, just like Demi.
There you go.
Just like Demi.
Lovato Jr. BJJ.
Yeah. And then on there, I have a link tree so they can find my school, you know, other videos and stuff. Like, I have
instructional videos and also stay tuned for a book that's in the making. He's not announcing it quite yet, but he's working on it. He's working on it. It's going to be incredibly great. He's inspired. You're going to be inspired. I hope you're inspired by this podcast. Thank you for being with us. Remember, you have overcome 100% of your darkest days. And now, just like this man across from me, go out and shine your light, share your knowledge and your inspiration with the world.
That's it.
Thank
brother. You. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, don't forget to send your Overcome stories to overcomepodcast@gmail.com. And also rate, review, subscribe, and follow Overcome with Justin Wren.